It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
It's that time once again for your weekly cup of coffee from Slumberland at the Lake. I'm Wild Will.
I'm Uncle Chris.
And Chris, this week we got some big headlines. Obviously, outrage ensues this week over a local case after it was dropped and the defendant was released. Hey, Ike Skelton, plea hearing.
Yeah, we
Monday.
Kind of heard that was coming. We get that news, so that's good.
Plus, we gave you a little update. Didn't have lots to give you last week about the Oasis Amusement Park. Well, we talked with Jeff Tegedoff, and we'll give you his update as far as what's happening at the Oasis Amusement Park site, plus City of Osage Beach, Sunrise Beach Animal Safari, lots of events, and high school football galore, that and more. But first, it is the fall home sale right here at Slumberland at the Lake.
Hey everybody, it's Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. It's one of the most fun weeks of the year because we're getting ready for our customer appreciation sale. We're gonna cook hot dogs, we're gonna have great drinks, giveaways, games for extra discounts. Not only that, we're gonna have interest-free financing as well. So you need to come check out all the fun at our customer appreciation sale at Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
A cup of coffee as we wake up, in the car, or right here on Lake TV with Will and Chris. Kind of like driving, we do it every single day.
But we shouldn't do it while distracted. Did you know that drivers who text are 23 times more likely to be in a crash? So keep your eyes on the road and always remember to buckle up and put your phones down.
This Drive Safe, Boat Safe message brought to you by Price and Randall Injury Attorneys.
Now back to your cup of coffee with Will and Chris.
Yeah, always remember to drive safe, boat safe all year round, and this is a great time. Although we've been promising that fall foliage and the colors, and do we miss it or is it still coming?
It's still coming. I thought we were gonna get it way early, but it's kind of held off, and so yeah, it's still coming. Still great to be out on the water in the fall though.
Yeah, it always surprises me, and probably shouldn't at this point, how my annual internal clock is not great.
Yeah.
Never know when the fall foliage is supposed to happen. But all right, so the big story here is the Camden County Brandon Marshall Wisdom case. Sex crimes, terrible story, was released last week. Charges were dropped and outrage ensued here locally. And I know that Lake Expo had a lot more research and sat down. And when you look at the article they put out, I thought that told a pretty good story of what took place.
Yeah, they said when Brandon Wisdom was arrested in February of 2024 and charged with multiple sex crimes against a minor, the details in the probable cause document made it sound like a slam dunk case, right? Everybody thought, oh, well, they got this guy cold, right? So from sexually explicit images shared through the Kick Social message app obtained by investigators to Wisdom's own alleged confession, the evidence outlined by the Camden County Sheriff's Office investigator seemed overwhelming. Again, this is February of 2024, right? Everybody thought, okay, got this guy, slam dunk. But this week, the charges against Wisdom, the child molestation and sexual misconduct, were dropped, right? To everybody's shock and outrage and all of that, they were dropped. The case vanished from the CaseNet, which is Missouri's online case tracking system. Individuals connected to the situation were bewildered by all of this. That turned to outrage with that. Outrage, anger directed to the Camden County Prosecutor, Rochelle Grosvenor, whose office filed the case to be dismissed. Okay, so Rochelle, all of a sudden, right in the middle of this, and everybody apparently blaming her because it looked like a slam dunk early, but Grosvenor says she's angry too. She laid the blame for the dismissal squarely on the Camden County Sheriff's Office, saying the investigators there mishandled evidence in the case, and that's part of a larger problem in that office. Camden County Sheriff's Office mismanaged the evidence in the case to the point that it would not be admissible in court, and therefore there was no evidence to show proof beyond a reasonable doubt, she wrote in a fiery press release late Tuesday afternoon. So again, all of this is blowing up and people blame the prosecutor because they thought it was a slam dunk, but then Rochelle, the prosecutor, is saying, hey, I can't do anything if they mishandle the evidence, and I can't bring a case. So it's all kind of just nuts right now. It's a he said, she said kind of a thing.
Right, and it's kind of uncommon to see, like, a prosecutor be this vocal and come out, especially with a press release, and essentially point the finger, which was interesting. And she also went on KRMS's Morning Magazine Thursday, October 2nd, with Tony Herman, and I thought that she did, a good job kind of laying out the legal process and explaining. One of the things that she said was in the probable cause statement that the names that were redacted that people saw online, right? And I think it's important to keep in mind that, a lot of times when we have any kind of heinous crimes, our emotions are very heightened.
Yeah.
I'd say especially in those of nature with children,
Yep.
a lot of times with animals, a lot of times with elderly, but especially when it comes to kids in this thing. And so considering the charges that were listed, when you see the probable cause statement with names redacted, you could be led to believe that these crimes were being committed against a minor. However, when you look closer and listening to the interview with the prosecutor and Tony Herman from Thursday with KRMS, it, from my understanding, was not the child, but rather the wife at the time that a lot of these things were listed. And so I don't argue that the Brandon Wisdom is a sick individual, and the mother may have had some blame here. I'm not sure. There's a lot of back and forth. I'm not a legal expert, but I did hear this in the probable cause statement, that the mother and father wanted to get caught in the act and would have intercourse with the victim in the room. And so that, to me, paints a little bit of a picture of the mindset of these two individuals. And so I think there's a major misunderstanding in the crimes that were committed, and the community's understanding of what actually took place are factually incorrect. I don't see the prosecutor's office having anything to gain from this, and a lot of times in the legal process, looking at what the sheriff's office said and the way they responded, and we have mishandled evidence and cases and working on improving that. Well, obviously, if the evidence brought to a prosecutor to bring somebody to prosecute them with charges, that would always be the desired outcome for a prosecutor and a sheriff's office. They're supposed to be working in cahoots to make that possible, keep violent, dangerous individuals off the streets, protecting our kids. However, there is a legal process that has to take place when that happens. And so it seems to me that somewhere along the line, the legal process is not coming full circle, and it's making it harder. When you look at the prosecutor of Camden County under the direction of Rochelle Grosvenor, it looks like she does bring charges quite regularly, and it does look like some of the cases more frequently that are dropped come from Camden County. It's important to remember it's not only Camden County Sheriff's Office that the Camden County Prosecutor fields cases from. And I find out in listening to this interview that some of the assistant prosecutors in that office have 700 cases in some instances on their desk or in the pipeline. That seems to me crazy. And so I would think with those cases, it's going to be important to have good evidence. And so over this one, the individual was released. And as we said, outrage absolutely ensued. I'm just not so sure that the outrage is currently being directed in the right direction. But I will say this, it's not uncommon for people to be very angry with prosecutors and judges and county sheriffs and things of that nature. It is a little uncommon to see so much vocal back and forth and pointing the finger, but sometimes I'd rather see that in front of the public instead of it going on behind closed doors.
Yeah, and in this situation, the sheriff is Chris Edgar right now of Camden County, but he was not the sheriff when all of this started. He was not the sheriff at the time that apparently broke the chain of evidence, that blew out a lot of the evidence in the case. That was Tony Helms at the time that this happened. So the current sheriff, Chris Edgar, is dealing with what the past sheriff, Tony Helms, did and blew the case, although it's making the current sheriff look bad because right now all this is blowing up. And Chris Edgar said there were some mistakes made on this. We'll own up to that. He said, "Did I see a lot of issues prior to taking office? Yes." He added, noting his office has made tough decisions on personnel because of prior issues. He says his team has since corrected every one of the actions that were issues. So let's hope that's the case. I think he's talking personnel there. Let's hope they figure out the chain of command and chain of evidence and all that stuff, because as you said, all of that is so important. You know, it's got to be all in place when you go to trial to make sure that it all stands up. I mean, the TV shows are all based on that, like, you know, your Law and Order shows. I mean, you've got the sheriff police side and the, you know, tracking the evidence, keeping the evidence, and then it goes to the prosecutor and they do their thing with all the evidence. It's all got to work together.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this, that there is outrage over this particular case, and Camden County Prosecutor's Office is getting a lot of that anger directed in their direction. It'll be interesting to see, with the Prosecutor's Office being so vocal, what we hear back from Camden County Sheriff Chris Edgar. And in regards to, like, the important thing is, like, if this is an issue that was back then, has it been rectified, and do we feel confident moving forward?
Yeah.
That investigations and cases will be handled properly. And if this was a case of that, could we go back and use this as a learning experience and let's set precedent moving forward so we don't see crazy, dangerous, sick individuals being released? It is also worth noting that the defendant, Brandon Marshall Wisdom, sat in jail for 19 months nearly, you know, and so that was a long time. And I'm sure that had they been able to bring charges, rightfully so, he would have spent a much longer time behind bars. But that is the way this went, and it looked like the Camden County Sheriff's Office said they were still working on investigation and trying to bring charges to this. It'll be interesting to see what they could do now they haven't been able to do the last, 2 years or 19 months.
And I do think there's been a pretty good relationship between the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office, certainly in current times. Hopefully that will continue and they'll work on this together, because they got to get it figured out. I mean, if they drop the ball on something that slam dunk, then they got to figure some things out and get it cleaned up over there. Hopefully they're working on that.
Yeah, the important thing is we got to protect our children, in all of these counties, and make sure that sick individuals are held accountable and taken out of, community. So, all right, another Camden County, it had been a huge headline, over the last year or so, and it's kind of calmed down, hasn't got as much attention, but Camden County Presiding Commissioner Ike Skelton officially had his plea hearing on Monday.
Yeah. So 2 felony charges against Commissioner Skelton. Initially charged with felony stealing, and that's a Class D felony, tampering with utility service, that is another Class D felony, and obstructing government operations, that is a Class B misdemeanor. However, his plea deal with the state via a special prosecutor resulted in the dropping of the 2 felony charges, which is huge for Ike Skelton. He pleaded guilty to the Class B misdemeanor of obstructing government operations. In a press release, he referred to the plea as guilty of obstructing illegal government operations, which I thought was funny. After his plea, which was entered on Monday, October the 6th, Skelton was sentenced to a $500 fine in addition to paying the court costs. Skelton called the plea a pragmatic step that allowed county government to move forward, right? Which is basically what it looks exactly like he did. He got rid of the felonies, pled to the misdemeanor, so he's allowed to stay in office and continue. It's going to be interesting to see if this works for him or against him, because I know there are a lot of people that voted for Ike Skelton that agree with what he did here and think this is a win for him. On the other hand, there's a lot of citizens that go, well, we got a guy that did wrong, are they going to vote for him again? So,
well, if at the end of the day, had Ike Skelton done anything with the intent they initially tried to charge him with, they would have absolutely not offered a plea deal to his defense attorney, Kim Benjamin of Kansas City, who did a great job. I spoke with her Monday at the courthouse, and of course we talked about that pled down. He also went on to thank, this is Presiding Commissioner Ike Skelton, Special Prosecutor Nicholas Komarinsky, and Judge Aaron Martin, thanked them for their eagerness to bring this to a close. And so it was the prosecution that brought the plea agreement, and notified the judge on August 16th that they would like to delay the proceedings to give Ike the time to get those pre-plea agreement requirements done. I think that's important because had they thought they had grounds to charge him with a felony, there's no way they would have offered him to plea that down. And so at the end of this, without a felony, the ordinance in Camden County still stands that you're not allowed in Camden County to have flock license plate readers. That was interesting to me. And both attorney, Kim Benjamin and Skelton, never feared being charged with a felony because had they ever feared that, or that the ability for Commissioner Skelton to still represent the people of Camden County would have been taken away with a plea deal, they would have 1,000% taken this to trial and felt confident in the outcome. And he is eager, and he said, I will always stand up for our citizens and their constitutionally protected freedoms and liberties. And that's exactly what he felt like he was doing. He did it, and he did get a misdemeanor, some community service, but this is now behind him.
Yeah. And you know, one thing you can say about Ike, whether you like him or not, is that he is a guy of action. He believed that much that was, infringing on people's rights. And he went out and he did so. He had to pay a price. It cost him, a year of all this rigmarole and everything. And again, it'll be interesting to see if that works in his favor. But hopefully, again, this is something that will go away, because this has been a problem in Camden County. It's just been something that the commissioners and the prosecutor and everybody's been having to deal with for the last couple of years. And now hopefully it's done and gone away, and they can get back to, more of the day-to-day stuff and keep things moving smoothly, hopefully.
A lot of attention on Camden County here recently, and especially in our show this week. Time to shift our focus to Osage Beach. We got a lot of stuff going on there, and we told you last week. Of course, everyone's wondering, what is happening at the Oasis Amusement Park, right? And we didn't have a lot to tell you. We kind of wondering the same thing, right? We reached out to developer Jeff Tegetthoff, and we talked last Tuesday. And I said, okay, so hey, May 2025, we reported updates and just kind of wondering what's been happening. And he says, all right, so the lender started the loan proceedings April of 2025, and they closed on their loan in June of 25. The bond sales process began, and he said that all $495 million for this project is currently in escrow. He said that you'll see blasting of rock in the middle of October, and from that point in time, it is off to the races. He has a global attractions and ride install company contracted for February through April of 2026, and all rides are already here at the lake, he says.
Wow.
And over 100 shipping containers. And by the end of summer 2026, that is when he's saying we'll see the amusement park and the parking garage, and summer of 2027 for the Marriott Hotel Conference Center and indoor water park. And he did admit, this project is 16 to 18 months behind initial timeline, but this project is 100% a go. And at this point, no one's going to win if this project doesn't come to fruition. I'm excited to see it happen. I hope that it happens, and I'm looking forward to seeing this blasting should be taking place here in the next week or so. So if I can get a date and a time, you bet I'll be out there, and I'm hoping a developer Tegetthoff will let me hit the button, right?
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Maybe I'll get to blow something up.
I'm so impressed you're friends with all these, high dollar people like Jeff Tegetthoff. So you just give him a call. Hey, what's going on with this? He's like, yeah, we're a little behind, but everything's good. It's going to work out. $495 million, and he said all the money is in escrow.
Yeah, which is what he said, and he's been tenacious. It has not always been easy.
Yeah.
To get to this point, we know what he went through to get to clean title, and the project that he had to go after all of those deed owners.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what happens. And for Osage Beach as a whole, they've been instrumental in really supporting and being behind that project, and they've got a lot going on. We met last week with the Osage Beach Parks Director, Eric Gregory, and Holly Jarvis with the city, and they have so much more going on at the city park down there than I realized. The ball field's right.
Yep.
You've got the Lowe's Bark Park, which is the biggest dog park at the lake. They've already had 50,000 visitors there. They go all the way down. They've redone the sand volleyball courts. They got canoes and kayaks they rent out.
Really?
There, I did not realize this. And so I'm like, no, I had no idea. I play softball there, right? And I had no idea there was all that going on. They also have the catch and release pond that is run and I guess maintained by the Missouri Department of Conservation and their marine biologist. And so just way more than I realized. And they said, hey, more is on the way. They've got a pretty cool park announcement. They're going to be looking towards their community to help them make some decisions in. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Eric Gregory. I mean, they are working hard. And we did ask the city. We had a couple of people reach out and say, hey, is there any updates on the fluoride situation with the city of Osage Beach? And so as soon as I sent that to the city, they said, okay, we're getting you an answer. And so Holly Jarvis will send that over and try to get us an update. Because I know that was a big issue was, hey, some people wanted fluoride, some people wanted to keep it in the water, some people wanted to discontinue. And so we'll get an answer on that. But while we're talking City of Osage Beach, I want all of you that have kids, City of Osage Beach Annual Fall Festival.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. October 11th, it's this Saturday from 10 to 4. It's free. Doesn't cost anything. Vendor market, food trucks, pie eating contest at 1 o'clock for kids. The adults get to have their own pie eating contest at 1:30.
Okay.
They've got a petting zoo, bounce houses, and more with military displays. And the cool thing is, again, it's free entry. And they said they are expecting like overflow parking.
Yeah.
And so that'll go into the soccer fields and they're going to shuttle people up. But we went last year and I was super impressed by it was free for the kids. And so it's a really cool thing.
I bet Brindley loved that, huh?
Yeah, we had a blast, and I kind of loved it when they let you, like, I go on the bounce houses. Some of them, they're like, no, you're too big. And I'm like, all right, I won't. But yeah, it's a great family event. And I thought anytime that you get an opportunity to do something, not spend a ton of money, like anymore, it gets so expensive to do anything with the family. So that is this Saturday. Another thing that's cool for families is the Sunrise Beach Animal Safari.
Yeah.
Right, we've told you all about the Tanya Haddock story.
Yeah.
And the Chimp Crazy HBO star, if you've seen that series. Well, we told you a couple months ago, right, that she had been arrested. Well, she has finally testified in court on August 26th. U.S. Marshals brought her to a St. Louis County courthouse to testify, and she testified for about 90 minutes, and she was reportedly not combative, very content, and she knows that PETA is requesting $224,000. That's why she got arrested, was for being in contempt of court, not responding to those requests and to start paying PETA. And so, and PETA obviously wants that for tracking down the chimpanzees she was harboring and then getting those back to sanctuaries. And so in this hearing, she offered a $2,000 a month restitution or repayment to PETA to recoup their court costs. And the judge seems satisfied, so I don't know what that means for her, but I was more interested in the Sunrise Beach Safari. Like, is it going to be open?
Yeah.
I looked on their Facebook page, and on September 15th, they posted, hey, we're closing for the season on September 21st, but we have kingagoos, baby sloths, baby kangaroo, and baby capybara, I'm not really sure about all these exotic animals,
Right.
but in their encounter room, so it looks to me like Sunrise Beach Safari is still open. Now, they're closed for the season, but I went by, and as you see there, their sign says, yes, closed for the season, but we'll see you next spring.
Okay.
So I just thought that was interesting. Sunrise Beach Safari, Tanya Haddock's, HBO Chimp Crazy. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know.
I'm kind of shocked that she worked out a deal. I mean, the last time we talked about her and she was like on the run and, you know, they got that really bad mug picture of her and everything, that she was done. She was going to be in jail for a while, and apparently she got out of it, apparently, huh?
Well, I don't know if she's out of jail yet. I mean, she testified in court, so I don't know if she's got to pay all that back before she gets out or what. But the funny thing was, in their testimony, as she was testifying, she talked about how she's really good with baby sloths and has been one of the most successful animal dealers.
She'd be good with me. I'm a baby sloth is what I am.
Yeah, I imagine that Mrs. Uncle C might have a couple other names for you. Hey, by the way, Bikefest follow-up, we don't have an official number, right? But they did have 1,413 participants in the passport program.
Wow.
So that was a record for them over their 23 locations. And congrats to Becky Norton, who won the Harley-Davidson Whiskey Fire Street, and Logan Nolan won the CF Moto Sport Bike. So Bikefest gets bigger, as we've told you, every single year.
Yep.
Got to do a weekly roundup for football, because if there is anything to put a damper on the beautiful fall weather, it was a terrible weekend of football.
Yeah, your Bills lost. My Chiefs lost. Kind of a surprise on both sides. The magic might be over, Chiefs fans, because it wasn't there. It hasn't been there, this season so far. We'll see if it comes back. But 2-3 with Detroit coming up, and we'll see.
What a difference a week makes. Can we see what he said last week about the Chiefs are back on top?
I know I said that. Well, we saw the real Chiefs for the first time, but I'm not sure it's for real. And, they showed flashes last week, but that's a pretty good Jacksonville team, too. I was surprised that your Bills lost to New England, but that's a pretty good New England team now, too.
NFL football is boring, especially when you're a fan of the Osage Indians, and they rolled Friday over Hallsville. It was 11-8 at half. Hallsville actually scored first. Osage scored the next 39 points of the game, including 4 touchdowns in the first 5 minutes of the third quarter. 5-1, they're on the road at a very tough 4-2 Boonville team. We'll have that for you live on Lake TV this Friday night.
Yep.
Camden, tough loss Friday. They have to go to Hickman.
Oh.
It's one of the best teams in Class 5 in the state of Missouri.
Yep.
Maybe Class 6. And they do get Michael Machino back, who didn't play Friday. And Eldon, they got a tough stretch. Lost 3 in a row, and they go to Blair Oaks Friday.
Ooh, that's not going to be pretty.
I wouldn't even wish that on the Bills, to have to go to Blair Oaks and play. So Blair Oaks, number 1 team in the state, Class 2. They'd probably be number 1 in the state in 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
They're that good. And we told you, crazy NFL week. But hey, congrats to a big winner, Lisa R. She got 9 games correct this week.
Yeah.
In our best seat in the house pick'em challenge.
Yeah.
How do you
That's a
even
lot
do
better
that?
than I did. I was horrible.
Lisa R., remember, you can come to Slumberland at the lake. You got 3 gift cards that carried over the last 2 weeks with tiebreakers. You've won $75 to Tucker Shuckers. And make sure you check out the incredible selection of recliners. And for the overall standing, you're still in the running, but Alma, man, she's got 54. She's starting to build a little gap there.
I'm
2
just
games.
2 behind, so I'm hanging tough. I'm hanging close.
You and Doc Works, David, both at 52. And our very own Spencer Wall at 51. Spencer, my man, only 3 points out of the lead. How cool is that?
Where's Andy? How far down is Andy? How
Well,
far
he's
down are
higher
you?
up than I am,
Well,
I'll tell
you're
you
way
that.
down, huh?
Sierra and I are down there together, which, not doing real great. But
She missed a whole week.
And then she's not far behind me, I don't think. Anyway, moving on. Wanted to tell you guys about a couple of cool events. One this weekend, it is our friend, the Veteran Discount Guide, first annual Helping Heroes Sporting Clay Tournament this Saturday on the 11th. Pretty cool event. Sign up at 8, shoot starts at 9. If you want to find out more, just got to go to Veterans Discount Guide on Facebook. Really neat event. And Jeff Carr, Katie Carr doing a great thing. You've seen them on the show before. Love those guys over there. And also, everyone knows the annual Hy-Vee Hollow, right? The annual trunk or treating event. Well, our buddy Mike Clayton says, hey, we're needing vendor booths. We're needing people to come give out candy and be there for the kids. Really cool fundraiser for Dream Factory and Wonderland Camp. It only costs $100 to reserve a booth, and you provide enough treats to hand out to 2,000 kids. They anticipate you're going to make a big difference. If you're interested, plug into our Facebook page, go to Wonderland Camp, and don't forget that event is Sunday, October 26th. One of, if not the biggest trick-or-treating events of the year, every single year down here at Lake of the Ozarks. And then really cool on the community spotlight this week, part 2, Peter and Susan Brown.
Yeah, they're lake royalty, right? So Susan Koppler Brown, her dad is the guy that built the Four Seasons and helped develop much of the Lake of the Ozarks, including Portachima, Horseshoe Bend. So just great, wonderful stories from over the years, lake stories. So tune in, see that. They're just wonderful people and wonderful stories.
Yeah, love them. That was really cool getting to see part 1 and excited to see part 2. And as we round up this week's Cup of Coffee, our weekly Bible verse this week, we've already been in this book before, but Philippians 4:7, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And that's the greatest thing, right? To experience that supernatural peace that does transcend all of our human understanding.
Yeah, and notice
only
how
available.
it says it guards your heart and your mind. Pretty important to have those both guarded. That's nice.
Love that. That's your weekly scripture here on Cup of Coffee. Appreciate you guys watching as far as this week. Don't forget, Lake TV will be in Boonville for the big School of the Osage game at the Pirates. We'll kick off with our pregame show at 6:30. with our kickoff set for 7. Thanks for watching this week's Cup of Coffee.